Well, hello everybody, and welcome to another one of these, I suppose, spasmodic blogs about my various Leitz lenses that I have. And as I've said before, the only ones that I do vlogs about are the ones that I actually own. The last lens we looked at was the Leica, or the Leitz Summitar, the first F2 lens that Leitz produced. And so this time let's have a look at the second one, namely the Summitar. The Summitar was introduced around 1939, I think, and it finally ended production around about 1953. So this was very much a lens that was running through the 1940s. It was the last lens to be designed by Max Berwick. He unfortunately died in 1949, and he's, in a way, I think he's the unsung hero of the Leicas, because he doesn't seem to get so much mention as the other people. You know, obviously Oscar Barnett gets plenty of mention, and of course Leitz Leitz II. But I think Max Berwick gets a little bit less of the limelight, and he was responsible for the design of a lot of the, in fact, I think all of the early Leitz lenses. This particular lens I'm going to show you is a later one, and by that I mean it's a 1949 one, I think. I should have double checked the serial number. I think it's a 49 one. And the main difference with the Summitar as compared to the Summitar is that the front element is larger, and it's designed that way to reduce vignetting. That's the shadows you get around the corner of photographs when they're taken with the iris wide open. Interestingly, of course, you can buy software to add that these days, should you want to. It can be quite a nice effect under the right circumstances. The front two elements as well are cemented together, which can, on older lenses, cause problems, because you can get separation, balsam separation. And you can usually see that if you're looking at one of these lenses with the idea of buying it. If you see any, if you just inspect the front of the lens very carefully, if you see at any point in the glass a sort of a, what can I say, a rainbow effect really, where the separation's taken place. You know, the sort of, imagine you're looking at some oily water, and you can see the lights being broken up into the spectrum, like a rainbow effect. Well, if you see any of that, then there's a very good chance that there's balsam separation between the two front elements. So that's something to look out for. Now the Summitar has 7 elements, and they're in 4 groups, and the range in the iris is from F2 up until F16. It's made from brass, and let's take this one off the camera. This camera is like a 3C. You've seen it before, and this lens is, and if I'm holding it like that because this one is a post-war lens, and it has a single coating, and I think you can probably see the blue tinge there. Oddly enough, I hadn't realized until not long back, when I was actually doing some early research into this particular vlog, I didn't realize that this lens was coated, because it's not always that easy to see, and it only struck me, oddly enough, despite the fact I've had this lens for a few years, that it was coated. It's a single coating, as I've said, but you can see it there. And the serial numbers for the coated lenses were the ones that were produced after 1946, or at least, let's put it another way, They were uncoated until 1946, and then they became coated at lens serial number 601001. And if you look at this lens, and we look at the serial number, if we can find it, yeah, there it is. It's in the 72. It's in the 7200. I don't know whether you can see that. We'll bring it a bit close there. It's got out of focus. It's in focus. It's out of focus. But it's a 72. Yeah, there you go. 723271. So this one, as we can see, is the coated version. But don't be put off if you come across an uncoated one, because that's still a good lens. Interestingly, now most of these have got a 10 blade iris, but for some reason at lens number 792001, Leitz reverted back to the 6 blade arrangement from the Summitar, and there's a couple of reasons or theories why this might have happened. The one which, to be honest with you, I obviously I don't know if that's the case, but there's one story that goes about that suggests that they actually found a lot of the earlier 6 blade aperture components and decided to use those up. So the very last of these lenses reverted to the earlier arrangement in the Summitar, and that happened at about lens 792001. The lens, like all the early Leitz lenses, has a clickless aperture, as we can see there. Just move that across. It's a little bit it could be a little bit looser on this one, but it's still very usable. And of course this one is actually calibrated in feet, and it's in quite clean condition as well. Not immaculate, but it's a very usable lens, and it takes some very nice photographs, and I've got a few examples I'll show you in a minute. As I've said, brass construction, chrome plated, and the close focus once again is 1 meter, or if you like 39 inches. So I think I've covered all the technical bits, the early bits, if you like. And it's my favourite lens, because the reason for this is you can still get these at quite reasonable prices. I think I paid, mind you, this was a few years back now, I think I paid about £275 for this one. It was actually to replace an early one that I had, which I've actually featured on these vlogs. It was one that was classed as irreparable by one dealer, and so I replaced it with this one, but my wife and myself decided to take it to pieces and have a go at cleaning it, and I think we were pretty successful, except for getting the blades back in position. And those of you who have been following these vlogs for some time, and thank you for staying with me, might remember it, and you come across with various suggestions on how to get the blades back and how to get them working properly. But after a number of attempts, what I've done, I've sent that lens off, and hopefully I'll get it back at some point fully working. But so far I've heard nothing from the repair shop, but I know they're always busy, and it can be some time before you get these things back. But I'm hoping it'll come back fully working, and I can't remember the age of that particular lens. My money's on it being an earlier one, but I really cannot cannot remember. And if you know, some people refer to this one as the sweet spot because it's single coated, but it's still got the 10 aperture blades. So I don't know. Anyway, my thoughts on the lens. Well, as I said, it's probably one of my favourites. It's the third Summitar lens that I've had. The first one was on a camera that I sold many years ago, and I have actually already covered that camera because it had quite an interesting history. And if you go through the earlier videos I've made and you want to find out about it, then it's still there. It was attached to, well, when I had the camera, it was attached to a 3C K camera. But that camera was sold some years back and the lens had been changed, probably because that particular lens had balsam separation, rather I suspect it had. So if you want to go through some of the earlier vlogs I've done, it's still up there. So my thoughts on the Summitar, well, as I've already said, it's a favourite. It's one of my favourite lenses, partly because you can still get them at a reasonable price. And what I have done though, but I will quickly go through my notes to make sure I haven't missed anything out. I don't think I have. It's always a problem doing this because after you've finished, you then look and you think, oh crikey, I should have said this and I should have said that. But I think I've got all the details right. So, and I printed off a couple of pictures that, on my usual way, I've printed these off onto A4 plain paper, but just to give you a sort of an idea of what the lens is capable of, and it is just an idea. But I thought, it's a nice lens. It's a lot of people like this lens. It's not a lot different, I don't think, to the later Summicron, which I will do a blog about because I do have one in the collection, and that will be the last one looking at Leitz lenses, unless I come up with some other idea, I don't know. But anyway, I don't tend to use colour film in my Leicas very often, but a few years back I bought some Kodak Hector film because I just wanted to. In fact, I think I've used two of the cameras. This 3C that you see here is one of them, and I put some colour film through the 3F, which you've also seen. And the 3F has actually got an Elmar lens, which is also being a 1951 camera. That the lens on that one is also coated. And one thing that in both of those occasions I used the Kodak Hector, and the examples I'm going to show you now are on Kodak Hector as well. So the first one, well, actually, yeah, I'll show you the colour ones first. Now this particular one, and I say this has just been printed off on ordinary A4 paper. It's not photographic paper. And this was taken, I think it was taken, well, it definitely taken on the Norfolk coast. And I just, the name of the place has just escaped me. Oh yeah, Sheringham. I think it's Sheringham on the Norfolk coast. And lovely part of the country, and these are obviously bathing huts, multicoloured, and the first thing that you might think to yourself, well, those colours are quite subdued, and actually there's a pink, unfortunately there's a pink tint, isn't there, because what's happening is the lights coming through the vertical blinds in this room, which happen to be pink, so sort of, can you just ignore the pinkness? In fact, I wish I'd noticed that earlier on. I'll put it at a slight, no, it's still there, isn't it? Well, ignore the pink roofs, that's just not there. But there is a sort of when I look at this particular image on the computer monitor, the first thing I noticed was the colours were quite subdued and they were sort of like quite a pastel-y colour. And I suppose that's probably because the Leitz lenses aren't known for being high contrast lenses. So maybe that may well have something to do with it. What I'm going to do though, I'm actually going to open the blinds completely, so just bear with me for a second. Well, let's see if that's made a little bit of difference. I don't think it has actually, so maybe it's just the way the light's hitting the camera, but I can assure you that roof isn't pink. But I think even taking that into account, the pinkness has sort of gone a bit now. But the colours are quite subdued and quite pastel, and actually it's something that I find quite attractive. I don't know how you feel. Of course, looking at colours like this anyway, through another lens and an image that's been printed by obviously mixing inks, the whole thing's a bit subjective really, isn't it? Because you know, we see colours in different ways, and bits of equipment are going to see colours in different ways, but it does give just an idea, I think, of what the lens is capable of. As I said, it's really totally subjective. It's how things interpret things, and this image is not unlike the image that comes up on the computer, on the monitor screen, except there isn't this pink tinge here. That's quite annoying actually, but I can't do anything about that. It's not on the print, but it just gives you some idea, and I think probably I actually quite like the colour rendition on here. So anyway, and here's another one now. This was taken quite locally to where I live, and it's a local canal, and it's an area that I've photographed those stacks of times since the 1980s, and it's quite an attractive area. And fortunately, there were two horses that decided to do a bit of posing as well, which I think made the picture. But you know, it's one of those, again, it's totally subjective, because if I move the paper a bit there, the light alters again. But again, this is just an idea to see what the Summitar is capable of and what it's capable of with colour film, and I think you can get the general gist, I think, and so on. And it's I mean, there's plenty of detail in those trees back there. So yeah, I think it just shows roughly what the lens is capable of, and it's a lens which is perfectly capable of dealing with colours, and it's a sharp lens as well. Here's a monochrome one, complete with that same tinge that I mentioned, which isn't there. This is a pure black and white, but again, I think it gives you an idea of the sort of detail the lens is capable of giving. It's certainly one of my favourite lenses, and you know, I would recommend it if you're thinking of buying one, because F2, even in today's market, if you like, that it's not a slow lens by any means. So there you go then, and I hope that's been of some interest. But before I go, I would like to welcome, I know there's a couple of new subscribers that have joined, so welcome, and I hope you'll enjoy this vlog and future vlogs, and I'll see you very soon. So bye bye for now.